The tuning is going up. It's really, it's the humidity.
Do you want help?
No, it's fine. They found the fantastic.
Oh, wait, there.
You should just tell me about what came up. Do it from the beginning. Oh my God, serious. So
Shabbat shalom, everyone. Welcome to Temple Israel. So glad that you're here tonight. And this is the first night in a long time that I'm able to explain to you that the reason it looks so crazy outside is because we had our first Tot Shabbat since March of 2020 tonight. So it was really exciting to see these seats filled with so many little people who are all on the playground now enjoying their ice cream. If the service ends early enough, you could probably go get ice cream. I'm just saying.
But don't push
Kids
away
in the
in
back.
line.
But we're glad to be able to have you here for a Shabbat experience together that's maybe a little bit more adult. So we'll take a few moments and start our service by welcoming each other with the words Hine Matov on page 10. Hine Matov Umanayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad Hine Matov Umanayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad Hine Matov Shevet Achim Gam Yachad Hine Matov Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Beautiful. So it's fun. We didn't light the candles before, so we're going to relight them because it kind of didn't count before. So we're going to start our service really officially by lighting these candles. And Rabbi Michael, I can't use the lighter. As you all know, it's very embarrassing. No one ever taught me how to use a lighter. So on page 2, if you want to take a moment. Some people like to close their eyes as we bring in that Shabbat spirit. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. So we'll lift our Kiddush cup. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. All right, now we learned a very cute challah song tonight from Miss Megan that I'm not going to sing now, but we may bring back another time. For now, we'll just say our regular motzi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. One of the songs that we used to sing with the little ones was called the Shabbat Angels. And it always struck me as sort of a funny song because the kids would sort of wonder what angels look like and they would sort of flap their imaginary angels' wings. But the truth is that Judaism, we do believe in angels. And we even have a song that we sing about the Shabbat Angels every single week when we come together, but we're singing in the Hebrew, so it doesn't sound quite the same. Our song is Shalom Aleichem, which is on 24, and we welcome the Shabbat Angels into our midst to give us just a little bit of holiness to lead us into the week ahead. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Malachi Elyon, Melech Malachi Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seidchem l'shalom, Malachi Shalom, Malachi Elyon, Melech Malachi Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. On the bottom of 27, it says, entrances to holiness are everywhere. The possibility of ascent is all the time, even at unlikely times and through unlikely places. There is no place on earth without the presence. And so we rise to our feet, trying to stretch out and feel God's presence on page 28 for the Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed. On the bottom of 31.
This is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over?
Baruch atah Adonai, Ma'ariv Aravim. On page 33, as you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Israel. And we join in Shema on page 34. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam va'ed. Please be seated. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavacha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta b'am B'shivtecha b'beitecha, uv'lechtecha b'derech, u'shochbecha u'v'kumecha, u'kshartam la'ot al yadecha, v'hayu l'totofot bein einecha, u'chtatam al mezuzot beitecha, u'visharecha, leman tizkeru, V'asitem et kol mitzvotai, v'yitem kadoshim Elohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים, אני אדוני Elohechem. And 39, standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. We sing Michamocha, remembering even now when we are in this time still so close to Passover, that freedom is not easy, that once we have freedom, it is hard to be able to find the place that we need where we can truly feel safe. And so we offer the words of Hashkivenu on page 42, asking God, once we find that freedom, to spread a shelter of peace over us wherever we may go. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Shalom, L'Shalom, V'hamidenu Shomreinu L'chaim, Ufros Aleinu Sukkot Shlomecha, Ufros Aleinu Sukkot Shlomecha, shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us not wrong from right. Amen. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'Shalom, L'Shalom, V'hamidenu Shomreinu L'chaim. So for many of our students and our teachers, the year is almost over. But we know that when it comes to Jewish learning, it never stops. And so we have some of our students who are preparing to become B'nai Mitzvah, who want to show us a little bit about their learning, and they're going to help us with Tefillah on page 46. So if I can ask our upcoming B'nai Mitzvah students, and if previous B'nai Mitzvah students would like to join them, you are more than welcome to. Come on, Sam.
You can do it.
Please rise on page 46.
Adonai Sefer Hatita Ufia Gitati Latecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel חסדים טובים וקוני הכל וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות ומביא גאולה לפני בניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע מחכה חיים בחסד מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים סומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אשורים ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר מלחמו בעל גבורות ומדומה לך מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. Please be seated.
So this has not been an easy week for our nation and for the world, and so whenever we offer prayers from this bema, so often what we're praying for more than anything is peace. So I'll invite you, if you will, to turn to page 60, and we'll offer a prayer for peace. With the words of Shalom Rav. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim La'olam. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim La'olam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim La'olam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim La'olam. Letzov beinecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael bechol Bishlomecha. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim La'olam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim La'olam. So at this point in our service, we flip all the way forward to page 253, and we take a few moments to think of those in our community who are in need of healing prayers. And so if there's anyone you're thinking of who could use healing of mind or body or spirit, who would appreciate knowing that their names were shared here, I would invite you to share them at this time. We're thinking too of Lisi Weinstein and of Arlene Alper. We're thinking always of Drew. We're thinking of Dolly Newport, and we're thinking of Aileen. And so for all of them and the names we say to ourselves, we sing the Mishaberach. Mishaberach avotzeinu mekol bracha le'imotzeinu. May the source of strength, oh, bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishaberach imotzeinu mekol bracha la'avotzeinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. Oh, say shalom, b'meroma. Oh, ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Oh, say shalom b'imrama. Oh, ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Before I share with you tonight, I also just have to say that not only is it amazing that we had our Tot Shabbat tonight, but tonight I feel like some of our choir is back together, even though you're not sitting together, and it feels so beautiful to hear all your voices. So it feels like we're getting there, wherever it is we're going. So, this year, Rabbi Michael and I have been teaching a series all about the holidays. And we call it all about the holidays, actually, so you would know what we were teaching about. And the idea really was to go through most of the major holidays, recognizing that even if you knew what they were about, that we could be able to hopefully teach you something new. Now, I will yet again apologize for ruining Purim for many of you. I am sorry about that. Apparently you didn't know what Hamantashen were. My bad. So we won't talk about that one again, but we did cover most of the holidays that we figured you needed to know. But there were a few that we left out, and one of them is the holiday that actually occurred yesterday and today. It's a holiday that is called Lag BaOmer, but if you are celebrating it in the Sephardi community, they also celebrate Lad BaOmer. Don't worry, those words are nonsense words because Lag and Lad don't really mean anything. Lag means the number 33, Lad means 34. And both of them are about counting these days of the Omer. That's counting the days from the beginning of Passover all the way to Shavuot. And every single day you're supposed to do this counting, and it's sort of a time of, mourning, actually, a time of sort of incomplete mourning. Now, if you haven't heard of Lag BaOmer or Lad BaOmer before, don't worry, you are not alone, because this is not a holiday that many people know about. We have no idea, actually, when people started celebrating this holiday, because it's not in the Torah and it's not in the Talmud. We don't hear about it until much later. This is not a holiday that has any mitzvot, any commandments that are connected to it, and there are some minhagim, some traditions, but they are super weird and also kind of random. The holiday, the customs that you do on Lag BaOmer, one is you give people haircuts, especially if it's your first haircut. So like for kids. And also there is a tradition of lighting bonfires very safely if possible. And there's a tradition of archery, which doesn't sound like a thing that a lot of Jews would do, but those are the things that we are told that we should do on Lag BaOmer. And we also don't really know what it is that we are supposed to be celebrating on Lag BaOmer. We're given 3 different ideas though, and they all come from about the same time in history. And the first is that it honors the Bar Kokhba revolt, which was sadly a failed revolt, but it was a powerful revolt against the Romans. Okay, I have to check my historian to make sure I got the bad guys right. So that's the Bar Kokhba revolt that maybe we're honoring on Lag BaOmer. We also know at that time there was a great rabbi, Akiva, who you may have heard of before, and Rabbi Akiva had all of these students. Sadly, there was a terrible plague at this time, and almost all of Rabbi Akiva's students died, except for just a couple. And Lag BaOmer marks the day that the plague ended. So also a little bit sad, but still something to celebrate. And the last story is that one of those students of Rabbi Akiva's who survived, he was a guy named Shimon Bar Yochai. You may have heard us talking about him, especially during the pandemic, because Shimon Bar Yochai, when things got really bad, he took his son and they hid in a cave. Rabbi Michael taught a couple of classes about it. They hid in the cave just to see if they could wait out this terrible time. And then when Shimon Bar Yochai came out of the cave, he got so mad that no one had changed from this time in isolation, and like fire came out of his eyes, and he tried to light people on fire. It's awesome. It was really, anyway, it didn't really happen. He didn't really light people on fire, but it is an interesting story. And so on Lag BaOmer, we are also marking the day that Shimon Bar Yochai died. So all 3 of these things that we may or may not be honoring on Lag BaOmer or Lag BaOmer are a little bit unusual, because each of them are something that it could kind of celebrate a little bit. There was a revolt that failed, and there was a plague, but only mostly everyone died, and and there was this guy, and he died too. It feels like maybe these are not things we should be celebrating. But what we do on Lag BaOmer is still, we are marking this time, and we're saying, even though these stories are a little bit upsetting, even though these stories are of times that were mostly bad, on Lag BaOmer, we are going to find a way to stop our mourning and celebrate and do something fun. And it seems a little bit odd, it seems a little bit random, but still the tradition says, even when things are ugly, we're going to take just a pause and say, let's find something to be joyful about. Now, I've been thinking about Lag BaOmer a lot recently, in part because of Alice, who was such an incredible light and who we buried on Lag BaOmer, but also because something in this week's Torah portion seems to connect to Lag BaOmer. This week's Torah portion is Bahar, and it's the second to last one in the book of Leviticus. And Leviticus for the past few weeks has been pretty exciting, actually, as far as Leviticus standards go. So just this last week, we learned all about these different Jewish holidays, and we learned what to do if there is a blasphemer in your midst. And then we learned, all about this idea of an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. It's kind of been exciting. And then this week, we talk about sustainable agriculture. Yeah, again, it seems a little bit random and out of place, especially when you remember that God is giving this teaching to the Israelites, and they are wandering through the desert. They are not farmers. They have no land that they actually would need to learn about how to do sustainable agriculture, but that is what the Torah teaches. And what the Torah says is you have to make sure that every certain number of years that you are also finding a way to take a break, to celebrate, to find something to be joyful about. And it's actually not just your land. There's a certain number of years where actually all property reverts to its original owners. It's this beautiful utopian idea. It just says every certain amount of time you have to find something to celebrate, even if it seems random and there's no real reason for it. And I would like to think that maybe there is some sort of connection here and maybe some sort of lesson for us. This idea of our tradition just saying, I know things feel a little bit not that great right now, but we're gonna celebrate anyway. Because here we are, back in this room, with more masks on than we've had for a while. And we know that it feels like we have been in this in-between place where it's just kind of meh for a long time. And even if it feels like it's getting a little bit better, right? It's still not quite there. But our tradition says, even if we aren't feeling like everything is perfect and right again, maybe sometimes we still have to force ourselves to find a day to celebrate, to do something frivolous, like getting a fabulous new haircut, or like going and lighting safely a bonfire, or doing some sort of sport that doesn't seem like the kind of thing we would normally do, but sure, go off and practice archery. Do something that is fun and that is going to lift your spirit. Because after Lag BaOmer, we still have a few more days, a little more counting until we get to Shavuot. This time that is supposed to be our most joyous time when we receive the Torah, when we get to this holy moment at Mount Sinai, we still have a little ways to get to wherever it is we're going. So what if we just gave ourselves a break and said, let's find a way to celebrate? Now, I know that for a lot of us, this is a time in our lives. Maybe it's the end of school, or maybe you are ending up a year and you're trying to figure out what your job will look like next year. Wherever you are, I know that this is a time when a lot of people are stressed out or unhappy or are mourning and are really feeling the weight of the world on our shoulders. And our tradition is saying, we know how you feel. Find some way to rejoice. So my friends, I encourage you, tomorrow or the day after, sometime soon, to find some way, even if you don't quite feel like you're ready for it, to be able to do something just a little frivolous, just a little bit fun, and just a little bit joyful, so that you can have the strength that you need to finish the journey ahead. Shabbat Shalom. So I'm going to ask you, if you will, to please rise on page 282, and we'll join together in the words of the Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'Adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שמחקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המנה, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
On page 287, may we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding, loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear and doubt and despair.
Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
On page 291.
We do best homage to our dead when we live our lives more fully, even in the shadow of our loss. For each of our lives is worth the life of the whole world. In each one is the breath of the ultimate one. In affirming the one, we affirm the worth of each one, whose life now ended brought us closer to the source of life, in whose unity no one is alone, and every life finds purpose.
So we recall with love the names of those taken from us in recent days, and our hearts go out to their families in sympathy as we recall their names: Alice Handelman, Catherine Elaine Shelton, and Sanford Weiss. And we now recall the names of those the anniversary of whose death occurs on this Shabbat, and whose names have been inscribed in the archives of our congregation or on the Wall of Honor for perpetual memorial: Alvin W. Abramson, June W. Agris, Henry Apt, Harry J. Arnheim, Rose Barkin, Elsie Benson, Kate Berkowitz, Leo Brown, Lena Chernus, Sybil Margaret Day, Irving Edison, Frida Bear Fuller, Martha Sachs Gelber, Bessie Weil Glauber, Ann S. Goldberg, Ben L. Goldberg, Lillian Goldman, Molly Grodsky, Rena G. Grossberg, Ronnie Handelman, Charles Kessel, Robert James Kligman, Gunther Nathan Cohn, Eleanor Schmuckler-Lewin, Samuel A. Littman, Estelle London Mandelstam, Stephen Z. Marglis, Morton J. May, Rosalie Frank Neuberger, Leon Newman, Samuel Nieberg, Helen T. Offenbach, Shoshana Offenbach, John Lockmeyer Prell, Esther S. Radloff, Laverne Rockledge Kirkowski, Eric H. Ross, Celia Fremder Rostenberg, Fanny E. Rothgieser, Nellie Newmark Sachs, First Lieutenant Rosalind Littman Schulte, who died in the service of our country, Joseph Shakowitz, Jack W. Sofer, Faye M. Tucholsky, Hattie Summers Waldheim. So with these names and the names we keep in our hearts, we join together in the words of the Mourner's Kaddish on page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ba'alma divarach hiroteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv emru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach la'alam olmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudisha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechmata, da'amiran ba'alma v'emru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'emru amen. Oseh shalom b'mamav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'emru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And we say, Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mamav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, ve'imeru amen.
Please be seated. So before we turn to our closing songs, just a few things we want to make sure that we share. First of all, thank you to our amazing students. You guys did a lovely job as always, and we're always delighted to be able to have your assistance. We also hope that on your little Shabbat leaflets, you will notice our celebration of love. That's our Tu B'Av Gala that is coming up, and you can find your information on it. There's a flyer outside. We also are going to be having a class in all about Shavuot coming up. This class is going to be virtual because the idea of Shavuot study is that usually a tikkun leil Shavuot is something that you do late at night. Now, many of you may know that Rabbi Michael and I are not partiers, so we are not willing to do the all-night study session, but we will teach a class at 7 or so that we can still get to bed by 9 o'clock, because that's the kind of people we are. But we hope that you will take the class with us, and it is going to be virtual. Everyone is welcome. And we thought that for our closing song tonight, we would do a song that is a traditional Shabbat song, but we really have not done it in a very long time. So it is back on page 44. And my guess is that you know it, but glad we have some of our singers here tonight who can help sing very loudly. Veshamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam b'rit olam. Veshamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam b'rit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. Shabbat shalom, everyone. And I can't guarantee the ice cream truck is still there, but if it is,
Treat yourselves.